Every killer thinks they've covered their tracks. DNA, fingerprints, even security cameras wiped clean. But the one witness no one expects is already on the scene. It's the fly. In 3 notorious cases, insects witnessed what detectives missed, exposing murderers nobody else could catch. Why can a maggot crack a case no human ever could? The answer rewrote forensic history. September 1935. A woman hiking near Moffat, Scotland, stumbled onto a ravine littered with human remains. The bodies had been hacked apart with surgical skill, fingertips sliced off, teeth pulled, eyes missing. Every classic method of identification had been erased. Police suspected Dr. Buck Ruxton, a respected physician from Lancaster, but his story placed him far away during the supposed time of death. For weeks, the investigation circled the same dead end. Then Dr. Alexander Mearns examined the bluebottle fly larvae crawling all over the remains. He measured their size, checked their stage. They were in the 3rd instar, which is the final and longest larval phase. At the cool September temperatures recorded in Dumfries, it takes precisely 12 to 14 days for bluebottle maggots to reach that point. Mearns consulted weather logs, calculated backwards, and pinpointed the moment the eggs had been laid, between September 2nd and September 4th. That window matched the exact days Ruxton's wife Isabella and their maid Mary Rogerson disappeared. For the first time in British legal history, a murder timeline was set by a fly's life cycle, not a pathologist's guess. Ruxton's alibi fell apart. The jury accepted the maggot clock as hard evidence. In May 1936, Buck Ruxton was convicted and hanged. Insects had succeeded where every other clue had failed. In Bakersfield, California, a vice principal named Vincent Brothers faced charges that seemed impossible to prove. His family had been murdered while he was thousands of miles away, in Ohio, according to airline records and a mountain of receipts. The case looked airtight until detectives impounded his rental car. They sent it to Dr. Lynn Kimsey at the Bohart Museum of Entomology. Kimsey and her team spent hours scraping the radiator and picking apart the air filter, pulling out hundreds of insect fragments, wings, legs, brittle thoraxes, and other pieces. Under the microscope, she was able to identify a paper wasp and a grasshopper species that exist only in the Great Basin, west of the Rockies. No trace of them exists in Ohio or anywhere east. Kimsey compared every fragment to museum specimens, mapping each insect's natural range. The evidence was overwhelming. The rental car had traveled over 2,000 miles across the western deserts, matching the exact window of the murders. Brothers claim that he never left Ohio, but that story collapsed when the bugs told a story no GPS or cell phone record could erase. In court, Kimsey's testimony was methodical and devastating. The jury convicted Vincent Brothers of 5 counts of first-degree murder. Insects had mapped a secret journey and destroyed a perfect alibi. The next breakthrough would reach back even further, across more than a century of silence. March 1977. A grave on the outskirts of Nashville is torn open, revealing a body that looks disturbingly fresh. Pink flesh clings to the bones, and the clothing looks old-fashioned, Civil War era by the look of it, but the skin is soft and the features are almost intact. Police crowd around the pit, convinced they have stumbled onto a mob hit or a hidden murder. The graveyard is quiet, except for the scrape of shovels and the crackle of radios. No one can explain how a corpse dressed in century-old fabric could look like it died last week. Dr. William Bass, Tennessee's leading forensic anthropologist, arrives to examine the scene. He peers into the grave, noting every detail: the color of the tissue, the cut of the coat, the odd waxy texture of the skin. His initial estimate is cautious, less than a year since death, maybe even months. The police want answers. Bass gives them his best guess, but something about the scene refuses to add up. Coffin flies changed everything. Dr. Bass crouched at the edge of the grave, examining tiny darting insects that had burrowed through 6 feet of packed Tennessee clay. These were not surface scavengers. They were Phoridae, known as coffin flies. They're specialists at slipping through hairline cracks to reach bodies sealed away for decades. Their presence ruled out a recent burial. Only a corpse locked in an airtight box for generations would attract them. Bass sifted the soil and found fragments of cast iron. the remains of a Civil War-era casket. The pink flesh was not fresh at all. It was adipocere, a waxy substance that forms when fat breaks down in moist, airless conditions. The science was undeniable. This was Colonel William Shy, dead since 1864, preserved by chemistry and invaded by insects that only appear after a century underground. The bugs had spoken, and their testimony rewrote the entire timeline of the grave. That revelation would inspire a new era of forensic research. Every crime scene still swarms with evidence invisible to the human eye. As forensic entomology advances, even the smallest witness leaves nowhere to hide. The insects always talk, but are we listening?